Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Rash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
You know, it's funny because I spent 30 years believing in Mr. Deity, 30 years. And then I became an apostate. And now I believe in Mr. Deity all over again. It's like I've found God again. And we managed to sort of squeeze him in to the podcast schedule. Now, we all know he's a busy man. He's God. God-man, whatever. Lots to do out there. There's creation, destruction. He's out there appearing in dreams. He's blessing our food. He's keeping our cars inside those little white lines on the highway. Assisting our surgeons who are operating on our loved ones in the hospital. You've heard him pray that. Bless the hands of the surgeons. Guide the hands. He does that stuff. He's condemning people to hell, when they don't accept him. Bringing tears to the eyes of our favorite hosts on the Trinity Broadcast Network and manifesting his image on the occasional grilled cheese. He's a busy, busy guy. But because he is not constrained by the laws we humans must abide by, he was able to bend time and space to appear with us on our podcast for all to behold. We are indeed blessed by his presence, and we're going to spend some time on air with Mr. Deity. And I'm so glad you're here, man. Thanks so much for being a part of the Thinking Atheist Online. It's a pleasure.
I'm sorry, who is this again?
This is Seth.
Okay. I'm sorry, I thought this was Larry. This got transferred. You're laughing, but it's not funny. We have terrible problems here getting good help.
You've got some great help because I see him on your videos you got Larry, you got Jesse, and you got Lucy, and you guys are all amazing. You guys are all legends. You're all celebrities, and now you're bringing your omniscience, your omnipotence to speak with us. And it's funny because I had some people actually prepare me for your visit, your divine visit with us by asking some specific questions. I had a comment from somebody who said that he thought I had George Lucas on the show, and then he was like, no, wait, it's the other creator. It's Mr. Deity.
That's
Do you get
correct.
that a lot? Do you get the resemblance thing a lot? Because, I can kind of see that.
I do, but, I think my prequel is a lot better than his. So, he can say what he wants in terms of how popular and successful he is. I got some pretty good numbers, too. If you'll notice, in the prequel of the Mr. Deity show, there is no digitally computer animated character whatsoever who annoys everybody. Larry comes close, but he's completely live.
I've got a lot of people on my switchboard, but before I get to them, I want to talk about your proxy, obviously your alter ego here on planet Earth. I want to talk about a gentleman named Brian who used to be a Mormon. Can you just tell me, just man to man, person to person, host to host real fast, kind of tell me where you came from. Tell me how the Mr. Deity phenomenon started, because we have a lot of fun with it, talking about it. But the truth is you have a pretty serious past, right?
Well, let me go get him real quick. Hold on.
Please.
Right? Okay. Hey. He said something about Mormonism. You want to know about the Mormonism?
I want to know what your story is. You were a person of faith. What's that about?
Yeah. I grew up in a Mormon home, which was, it was kind of half Mormon, half not. And I don't know if that's fair. My mom was really religious. My dad was not. He joined the church to kind of keep my mom happy, which didn't really work. Because they fought like cats and dogs. They were basically the real life Costanzas, if you're familiar with the Seinfeld show. He was a bit of a skeptic the whole time. I grew up. I was kind of, it didn't fit right with me until I got a little older, and then when I was about 17, I got I had some things happen and, got into a place where, anything that happened looked to me like it was a sign from God. So I got into this religion like nobody's business. I ended up doing an album of music with a very popular Mormon music company, and yes, they do exist. We were on Mormon radio, and we toured the Western United States, singing and preaching the praises of Joe and Brigham.
What are you guys doing, like revivals and stuff? You traveling the world doing the tent thing, or what were you doing?
Well, Mormons don't do tents. They have these very innocuous looking buildings all over the place, where they have a lot of money. You'd think you'd be able to pay a designer. I'm not talking about the temples. The temples are beautiful, but the basic churches are a little sparse for me, very pedestrian. And we used to go around to those and perform. And in Utah, it's great because you can actually perform at all the malls and everything. Everyone's so Mormon, or they used to be. This is in the early '80s, and we used to do that. And then, anything I do in life, I generally go maybe about 150% overboard. And I did. I got really into it, and then I got into just knowing my Christian history, since Mormonism is kind of Christian. It's Christian-ish. And got really into that. I ended up working with a radio talk show host who a lot of people will know, syndicated guy, Dennis Prager, who's probably one of the most articulate advocates of theism, though he's a bit of a bully, and when he's on the air, he can switch people off and do that stuff, and he taught me a lot about how to think, quite frankly, because he's a very sharp guy, and he had encouraged me to write this book on God, but he had also taught me while I was with him, you always have to know the other side. You absolutely have to know the other side. I started writing this book, and then I realized, you know what, I don't really know the other side, and I went and got a book from the library called The Atheist Debater's Handbook. Fantastic little primer. And read it, absolutely freaked out, thought, oh my God, what the hell? This guy's got better arguments than I got. And called Dennis in an absolute panic. He was going to calm me down, but when we actually met, I realized he didn't know the other side and freaked out. I went into one of those kind of, what would I say? I had a hard time sleeping for maybe 2 years. Because, when you're Mormon, your whole life revolves around being a Mormon. It's a very... were you
isolated? I don't mean to interrupt, but was it one of those things where you did the 2-year mission and were you wearing the magic underwear? Was it like a cult thing?
I was married in the temple. I was wearing the secret underwear. I didn't go on the mission. I went on a local mission here, but I got a record contract. That's why I decided not to go on the mission with the Mormon record company. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do that. So, but I was in the missionary training center for about 6 weeks. I was on my way to Recife, Brazil, to go teach people along the Amazon, and got out of that. Luckily, thank heavens.
So you're talking to Prager, and you're telling him, look, I've got some things I can't resolve in my head, and he has no good answers for you. And then what happened?
Yeah, he went like a deer in the headlights. I kind of, it got awkward, and I let the conversation drift, and then I tried to find a way to be okay with it, and then I realized, I've kind of always been an atheist because Mormonism doesn't have a capital G God. It's one of the strange, unique things about Mormon theology is it's Christian-based, or Christ-based, I should say. But their God isn't the God of Aquinas. He's not the creator of everything. He's someone who used to be one of us and became a God and creates his own world. And it's a really wild theology. And then I felt okay with it for a little bit, and I thought, I got to get into something else, though. Judaism doesn't care if you believe in God. They just want you to do these things. And so I considered Judaism. I came very close, but couldn't get past the ethnicity thing. I grew up in the America of America, where you don't even know your history in terms of ethnicity or whatnot, and that was just too much for me. Almost became a Catholic, because I was going to get, once you come out of a small religion like Mormonism, you want something big. You want something really big. You want big hats. You want, costumes and a lot of pageantry and all that. So I figured
you're just sampling at the buffet right now. I mean, you're just going from one to the other to the other.
I really was. And then this is probably one of the great ironies of my life. I was still very right wing at the time because Mormons are, they're on the far right of the Republican spectrum, particularly the Glenn Beck types and whatnot. And I was listening to Dr. Laura at the time. This is before she'd become a religious, really religious person.
Sure.
She recommended an article she had written for a magazine called Skeptic Magazine. She was on the board of Skeptic Magazine, which is Michael Shermer's publication, the group, out of Caltech and everything. And I picked up this magazine and I read her thing, and then I started reading through the rest of it, and I realized, holy crap, these are my people. I'm home. And almost immediately became a big supporter of Skeptic. Used to go to the lectures every couple weeks at Caltech and kind of got in with them. I designed Skeptic Magazine, the previous iteration, the one that's not now running, but before this, and became friends with Michael Shermer. We're not buddy-buddy, but he and I get along quite well. He used to bike a lot. I used to bike a lot. We both come from a really religious background, so we kind of get the ethos of being there and having been there, but now also know you got to get out of there.
Most people don't leave the Mormon church lightly. Were your parents Mormon? I mean, your siblings?
My mother was very Mormon. My dad just kind of, joined to get along. The irony is that my father was more upset than my mother.
Aren't they supposed to disown you or something, or you're out, you're outside the wall?
No, Mormons aren't really bad like that. They're not like, I've heard that kind of thing coming from Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientologists and all that kind of thing. But no, Mormons are pretty okay. My dad, like I said, though, I think he was more upset, I think, ultimately because I think he kind of went, what the hell? I didn't have to do this all these years? And after my mother died, he joined me. He's now an atheist and kind of proud of it. And the Mormon missionaries still come to see him, and he gets out his Dawkins and his Hitchens and goes after him. He's 92 years old, but he's kicking some ass out there.
You've got a great endorsement on your website from Michael Shermer of Skeptic Magazine. It says, quote, Mr. Deity is really quite brilliant, funny without being offensive, insightful without trying to be too deep. The truth is your stuff is really well written. It's really well shot. And YouTube is sort of it's just this garden of a whole lot of not great quality.
Right.
And what you do is a next level operation. How did you come up with Mr. Deity? What's the story on the origins of this phenomenon?
Yeah, the story is I had made a movie in 2002, which did fairly well on the festival circuit, and we got a distribution offer. And IFP, the Independent Film Project, who had taken the film to market and gotten a deal and everything, told me don't sell it. You have great characters here. This could be this could be the next Napoleon Dynamite. Just remake it in high def because we shot it very low budget. Get some money, shoot it, reshoot the darn thing, work out some of the few kinks in the script, and get this thing going. And we were kind of sitting around trying to look for money, and we realized we don't have any names. So we kind of, what else can we do? And I had written a piece that as Mr. Deity and the Evil, which is the first episode. I wrote it shortly after the tsunami because I was, a lot of my family was still Mormon at the time. I'm divorced now, so that I don't see them anymore, but I used to see them all the time. And one of the members of our family he's from Sri Lanka, and he lost a good number of people in the Asian tsunami. And, it's pretty devastating. And what I was hearing was a lot of, things about, God, where was he and all this stuff, and I was just musing about it, and one day it hit me. Why do you need any of the natural disasters? It just doesn't make any sense. If you're God, if you're creating this world for people, you don't need natural disasters. There's clearly enough gratuitous suffering going around. Why add to it with that? Where you can take out 250,000 people in an instant. It's just ridiculous. So I wrote that episode, and I took it to every actor friend I knew, and I had quite a few of them because the movie was successful and people wanted to work with me, and it was kind of nice, and no one wanted to do this thing. Partially, I think, because of the time commitment that was involved, and partially because no one wanted to be typecast. In fact, Sean Douglas, who plays Jesus on the show, he was one of the actors. I had to really, really talk him into playing Jesus. I mean, he was very concerned about his career and, all kinds of stuff like that. And
now, were you still in L.A. at the time? Were you still on the coast out there?
Yeah, I was living in Temecula at the time, and I'd met Jimbo at the film festival where my film won the Grand Jury Award, which was really nice because I had a lot of credibility with him. He was also a shooter, and we started working together on projects. And one day we're driving home. This is 2 years of trying to get someone to be interested in playing Mr. Deity and Larry. And Jimbo looks at me one day. We're driving home from a shoot in Santa Barbara, a hellish 18-hour day, and he says to me, "You know what? Why don't we just shoot the Mr. Deity thing? You play Mr. Deity, I'll play Larry. Let's just shoot one, see how it goes." I said, "All right, whatever." And we shot it once, and then we shot it twice, and then we shot it a third time, partially because I was so bad.
Working out the kinks, huh?
Largely because it's a whole new thing learning to direct and act at the same time, to be in front of the camera instead of behind it. It's a really difficult thing, and it takes a lot of, I'm exhausted when we shoot because there are just so many things to think about, because I edit the show as well, and I know what I need and what I don't have, and, you got to really watch it, and I'm doing the audio and the video and setting the lights. It's a one-man production pretty much. And
I feel you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I totally feel you, man.
Yeah, I know. Some of the stuff you do is just freaky. In terms, I watch some of that stuff and I go, "Oh my God!"
People say, "Wow, please thank your staff," and I'm like,
yeah.
"Well, you're talking to them,
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that very, very much." So,
what staff? What crew?
And so you got the first episode. Did you go straight to YouTube with it, or what'd you do?
Well, no, we were. You know what? We were putting together a whole site that we weren't going to go to YouTube. We were putting together a whole site on our own, which was going to. We were also going to load it on YouTube, and I think it was like January 2nd of 2007, Jimbo calls me and he says, because we'd had 3 shows shot, the first 3 for a while, and we were working on getting the site up. And he calls me and he says, "Hey, there's a show on YouTube now called God Inc., and people are going to think we're just copying them. You got to throw that up." And I said, "What?" All right. So I threw it up, and we put the first 3 up, and then it got a mention on Dig or one of those sites, and the numbers started going on it. People were digging it, and then YouTube saw that people were digging it, so they put it on the front page, and the next thing you know, we've got hundreds of thousands of views, and we're getting calls from Mosaic and Sony and Sony Latin America who wants to take, and it was just kind of a wow. Holy
Mr.
Christ.
Deity, though, is still kind of a labor of love probably for you, isn't it? I mean, it's not like we're getting rich on that. I don't know about you, but I'm, this stuff, I do what I can to try to supplement, but by the time I'll tell you what's frustrating for me, and we'll get to the phones here in just a second, I promise. And you
Sure.
tell me if you're on my page with this, but I picture you and you've got the, you buy the gear, you have the expensive rig, you build the studio, you hire the actors, you license the music, you write the scripts, you hone everything, you edit it down, you post it, you produce it, you own it, you get it up there, and then the guy with the dramatic chipmunk video that he shot on probably his iPhone has 25 million more views than you do. There's something about that just makes me crazy.
Well, the one that Jimbo always references is the water skiing squirrel.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about life and death here, and
Yeah.
We're out there competing with Justin Bieber and the headbanging parrot and everything else that's happening, you know? That's frustrating.
Well,
do you ever feel that? You think, man, what is it going to take for us to get this what if everybody who watched some frivolous, just a distraction video actually took 3 or 4 minutes to digest some of the ideas that we're putting out there? Do you ever have that conversation to yourself?
Yeah, it would be great, but I'm not, if all you have to do is look at history, one of my heroes in terms of not in terms of his personal life, but in terms of the quality of his stuff is Woody Allen. I'm a huge Woody Allen fan, but the man has never had a hit picture for all intents and purposes. Annie Hall came the closest, and I think it only made $40 million, which wasn't bad at the time, but it's not, quality and, thoughtful stuff is not, I don't think it's ever going to be huge, but I think it's so necessary, and I think there's a really great niche market out there for it. I've been making a living doing this now since 2008, since we went with Sony, and the fans of the show have been great to me. They we do nothing but donations and subscriptions now to keep the show going, and I'm not making a lot of money. What I get beyond what I need to actually live goes to Jimbo or Sean or the web guy or something like that. So I'm just trying to keep the thing going because I think it's important in terms of the conversation. Because I think we're at the crux of a crossroads at civilization right now, where we finally have an opportunity to move beyond superstition and fear and all of these things that have just kept us down for so long. And I want to be a little part of that, whatever I can do. And it seems to me that humor is one of the great ways to do it. I don't think there is any right way. I think, you need Martin, you need Malcolm. Every way you can hit it, you got to hit it. So
it does seem like especially, the 20 and 30 somethings, even the teenagers, I'm getting emails from people who are the questions you and I were afraid to ask as young people. These young people they're challenging the traditions of their parents and grandparents. They're embracing the writings of the new atheists. They're starting to really think for themselves without fear. You kind of wonder if maybe we're really seeing a cultural shift that will make it a lot less stigmatized for our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. I mean, do you feel that coming?
Yeah, I think the question has always been one of how do you access the information? And now it's as easy as typing into Google.
Typing in MrDeity.com will really get you there. It's just amazing technology.
You want to hear the other side. When I was getting out of Mormonism, and I worked my way out of it because the problem with Mormonism is that it makes a ton of empirical claims. It's not like questions about whether God exists or whether Jesus rose from the dead, where we don't have the history, we can't go back. The claims were that the Native Americans were Hebrews who came here, 600 BCE, and built these great societies that were Middle-aged, not Stone-aged, and so there were all kinds of empirical claims that you could literally go test. And what started to happening in the early 90s was pretty much all the archaeology had been done. The people living here at that time were not middle-aged people. They weren't anything like the peoples of the Book of Mormon. There weren't the horses and the chariots and the steel swords and all of that. And then finally, in the early 90s, what you had is the DNA evidence come through, which showed, nope, they're not Hebrews. They're North Asians who crossed over the land bridge probably around, between 15 and 35,000 years ago. You had something that was just empirically demonstrably false. And the problem is that when I was getting out of it, that information was very hard to find. There were a few little books and little journals that you could get the info in. Well, now it's plastered all over the internet, and I have people coming up to me all the time and saying, I found this out on the internet, or I found that out, and now I'm not a Mormon anymore. And it's easy to do now, and I think once that hit, I really do think the trend is going to go, towards atheism and skepticism and science and all of that, because this kind of information has been repressed for a long time. Maybe not actively, but just kind of coincidentally, because so much of the nation was, it was taboo. Well,
sure,
nothing's taboo on the internet now. So, well, maybe, cockfighting.
Would you and Mr. Deity be game for a full switchboard? I've got some calls coming in, and I think some people would love to speak to you, give you some comments, ask you some questions. You up for it?
You up for some questions, Dee? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's good.
My first caller is Hassan in Michigan. I hope I said your name right. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
What can I do for you?
Mr. Deity.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very disappointed in you.
Well, a lot of people are. Join the crowd.
Disappointed? Why?
I have been praying for over 20 years. No answer.
Oh.
I mean, come on.
What are you praying for? You got a specific? You mean, what do you want to win the lottery? You're looking for a girl? What's going on?
I mean, it's just so much.
I know this guy. He leaves messages on my voicemail all the time. Let me tell you something, Hassan. She's never going to go for you. All right? I'll tell you that right now. She's out of your league. I hate to tell this to you, here in public in front of all these people. She's out of your league. You got to have some sense of reality about where you are and where other people are in the food chain. And it's just never going to happen. All right? I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. I've been busy.
Well, obviously you might be right. You're God. Yeah. Well,
Hassan, I guess
a couple.
All right, go.
I saw a video, and I think Lucy was a Christian. Is she a Christian?
Lucy is let me put Brian back on. Here we go. Yeah. Amy Roran is a Christian. Yeah, she's a Lutheran, born and raised. And when it really, you got to give her credit, because to the best of my knowledge, she's the only Christian on the planet actively supporting an atheist show. So,
well, what's her story? I mean, is it that she sees it as entertainment? Does she see it as harmless? Does she enjoy it? I mean, wouldn't the tenets of her faith say that she's not supposed to participate in nullifying her own belief system?
Amy is one of those rare people who can live with a good deal of cognitive dissonance, and also who is not one of these people who sees her way as the only way. And she values things that, quite frankly, I mean, this is, it's funny to me that say, oh my God, she's Christian. Well, really, what is she doing? She's only supporting kind of like a thoughtful exposition or exploration of these issues that uses humor. I mean, it's not, gee, wow, that's awful. A Christian should be engaged in this kind of stuff all the time. That's my feeling, and they don't. But our story is that we've known each other for 20 years, and we got together during the show. We were both on our way out of other marriages for various reasons, and we came together. And yeah, I mean, it leads to some pretty interesting conversations here.
She's really good. I mean, her timing is good, and she's funny, and she's thoughtful and beautiful and all that stuff.
She's been in acting for a long time. One of her biggest claims to fame is that she's one of the only people who shot a live action segment of South Park. She's the mother. She's the mother in a commercial that they do, which is on an episode about alternative medicine. Where she's the mother that recommends Cherokee hair tampons to her daughter. So,
well, that'll look great on a resume.
Amy is the ultimate cool chick. I mean, I just love her to death. She's adorable. She's funny. She's brilliant. She's beautiful. She's got it all going, and I'm the lucky guy who gets to,
Well, tell her she's got a whole bunch of infidels in her fan club, because we just love her to death. Right. Would you?
Yes, she does.
Hassan, I got to move on. I appreciate the call. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, pleasure. Let's talk to Thomas in Texas. Thomas, you're on with the Thinking Atheist podcast, and our guest, Mr. Deity. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Mr. Deity, what's up?
Hey, Thomas.
Hey, I have to tell you right now, I'm a big fan of your work. Being a multimedia man myself, I understand the implications that come across as a person who does multimedia. But I have something a little serious I'd like to talk to you about. But
sure.
In the name of good fun, but in the name of good fun, I'd like to start with a little humor first. Can I humor you, Mr. Deity?
Can you what?
Can I humor you?
Yes, please do.
All right. Well, let's just take it from a perspective of your show. I'll be a rational skeptic, okay? And I'll be a rational skeptic to your Mr. Deity. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, Mr. Deity, I do not believe in you. You do not exist.
Well, then you will burn in hell.
That was easy. Thanks for calling.
How do you like pineapples?
You will roast in the fires of Hades for all time. Hey, you've been a great call. Thanks.
I'm going to have a special room built for you.
All right.
What's
I love you. I love you.
Fun.
I really do. I love you though, so much.
Well, here's a little bit of a serious point. I think that while I understand your point and it's in good humor, I really do need to say this, and that in my own skepticism I've kind of figured out on my own. I don't think that being an atheist and a theist are a set of beliefs, or at least a system of beliefs. I think that, to clarify, I think that a theist is a core value, is a atheist a core value, and that we place a lot of emphasis on the belief system surrounding those core values.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with. I think it has a lot to do with one very simple principle, and that was enunciated by Carl Sagan, and that is, do extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof? And
well, I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. That's all right. Did you have any more?
Do you want me to continue?
No.
You guys just take your time. I'm sitting back here sipping my coffee, So just don't worry about me. I'm just hosting the freaking show.
There's
Thomas.
There's the core values I think that I found within myself when I was leaping out of theism was, did I really want to say that I believed in something that I didn't necessarily believe, and did I want to expose all of the beliefs that I had to, scrutiny. I mean, that one of the big things that really happened to me that got me out of theism is I read Robert Nozick's book. I didn't even read the whole book. I just read the preface because the preface was so shaking that I went, oh my God, I got to go do what he said. In the preface of his book called The Examined Life, he's talking about Socrates' statement that the unexamined life isn't worth living, and he says that's too harsh. But to the extent that you don't examine your life is not yours. It's a set of beliefs and ideas that have been given you, and that you're going to be living someone else's life, someone else's thoughts. And
absolutely,
you should want your thoughts to be your thoughts and your beliefs to be your beliefs, and everything should be questioned in terms of, do I really believe this? And what I did was I went through everything I had in my backpack, as it were, that you take your entire life with you, that people have given you this belief and this idea, and I set them down and I started examining them, and I started saying, you know what, I think this one's good, I think it's true, I think it's valid, I'm going to take it with me, and I ended up leaving a lot of the crap behind. And
I understand.
Yeah,
I just think that you're missing the point of my statement. I really do. I think that I'm just to be clear, I'm not a theist or atheist in any way. I choose to be ignorant of both because I think it's a waste of time, to be honest. But in this sense, I want to clarify what I'm trying to say.
Yes, please do, because I didn't want to.
By believing that theism is a religion, you're mistaken in that. Religion is a system of beliefs, yes, relating to a higher supreme being, but theism at its core is believing simply in God, nothing more and nothing less. Same way with atheism. It's believing in the inexistence of God. But to prove it aside, you have to escape the generalization and come down and expand upon that with a belief system set on morals. And being a a person who believes quite heavily in realism, I think that it's an important thing to see that difference in that atheism is simply believing in the absence of God, and that theism is the opposite, that it is a belief in God.
Thomas, thanks for the call.
All right.
I do appreciate it. I'm going to move on.
Yeah,
Anything
I don't know that I agree with that, because there's really no, if you're born an atheist, you don't have to. There's no believing that there's not something. You don't have to believe that there's not something. You just say, well, show me the thing, and I'm there. I mean, I know a lot of atheists who would be. I would be one of them. I'm not thrilled about my own death and annihilation, and maybe the annihilation of everything I love, including, Woody Allen films and the Jupiter Symphony. I'm not crazy about that idea either. But until someone shows me, otherwise, that looks like the way it's going to go.
Don't we get caught up in the labels? I mean, people sit around and split hairs left and right, and what's your definition of this and that? And before you know it, I mean, we're almost apologists, on the other side of the spectrum. Part of me thinks, to me, if God were to show up tomorrow and prove himself, he pulls back the curtain of the sky, I myself, I promise you, will be the first one. I will take down the website or change the domain. I will go out and become the staunchest advocate that I have seen God. I know he does exist. He has now proven himself to me. He totally makes sense. I mean, if God proved himself, I just want to live truthfully.
Yeah,
but until that moment, I'm adding up the evidence, and the evidence says, hell no. And so that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, we just put out our latest newsletter today, and the topic, the title of the thing is Hawking One Up. It's about Hawking's statement about, the God's not necessary for the universe and all of that. And one of the reasons I became an atheist is that I realized ultimately God doesn't solve anything. If you say like he does, I just believe in God, and I, none of the religious baggage with it. Well, what does that get you? What is the point? Okay, so some being or something created all of this. If we have no reliable methodology for understanding this being's character and this being's will, then what is the point? Nothing else is answered. I mean, we don't know that God's going to provide an afterlife. We don't know if he's going to punish good and reward, or punish evil and reward good. We don't know anything beyond that. It doesn't solve questions of morality. If God says genocide is good, well, I'm not going out and committing genocide. I'm sorry. So for me, there's a practical element to it. Doesn't really solve anything. It doesn't answer any questions. And not only that, but it just adds to the number of questions that we have. And there's enough for us to deal with on our own here. Let's just focus on what we can handle here and now.
We're speaking with our special guest, Mr. Deity. Julia Sweeney in her stage play, I'm paraphrasing now, but she says something to the effect of, the universe operates exactly as it would as if there were no God.
Right.
And it took me a while to sort of get around that, because it used to be when you would see a beautiful arrangement of flowers or clouds or, whatever it is where you want to see God in on that particular day, you go, isn't God good? Yeah. But the truth is, after a while, you realize, God isn't really necessary for this particular equation to work. In fact, it makes perfect sense without adding God into the mix. God is no longer required. As science grows, as our knowledge grows, as we evolve as a species, God continues to get smaller and smaller. And I think that scares a whole lot of people.
Yeah, and it's the statement about who was it, Napoleon, who said I can't remember his name, his model of the solar system, and where's God? Well, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And it just creates more problems. That's the thing. It really does create more problems than it solves. I was discussing a woman this week. A client of mine was talking to me about this baby who fell in France. Did you hear about this? Fell out of a 6-story window and
was caught. Or didn't it land in the eaves of a window or something, or an awning?
Very much. The awning. There was a restaurant below, and the awning was out because they couldn't get it in the night before. And it just so happens that a doctor was walking by, and the doctor caught the baby, and the baby lived without any harm. And she was saying to me, well, what does that show you? And I said, the problem is for every one of those that you can show me, I can show you 1,000 where the baby went splat. What does that show you? You know, you can always select the evidence to be whatever you want it to be. But I think if you just take a dispassionate look at the universe, it is as if Darwin said that the Devil's Chaplain can write a very good book on the workings of nature and the cruel, horrible, blundering, low works of nature to suggest that you're exactly right, that you don't need a God to create a mess like this.
How you doing for time? Do you have time to hit at the switchboard again? If we can, let's talk to Tim in Brazil. Tim, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast with Mr. Deity. Good evening.
Hi, Tim.
Hi. Nice to talk to you guys. Really nervous here.
Don't be nervous. It's just God.
Yeah. First time calling internationally.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Actually, I just wanted to say a few facts of some religions here in Brazil, like a guy that he says he's Jesus. He has only female followers, and he has like a little farm, and he dresses like Jesus. He has the beard, the hair, and he walks with the crown of thorns.
Wow. Well, can I hear that?
Does he have a job or something? I mean, all he does is walk around and be Jesus?
Yeah, he just walks around and be Jesus, and he goes on TVs and say, "Oh, I'm gonna save you all." He starts saying like a few verses of the Bible, and I think he actually wrote his own Bible.
Well, let me tell you something. The only female followers is a stroke of genius. I just got to give it to him. My stepson last year was the accompanist for the girls choir at his high school. It was him and 87 girls. Genius, absolutely.
Yeah. He almost have the same number. I think he have 40 or 30 followers, and they're all female and between. I think 20 and 40 years of age. He doesn't accept really old women.
Joseph Smith and Brigham Young had a similar deal.
I think he got some influence with the Mormon.
Yeah, he's ripping them off. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Tim, I appreciate your call. Anything else for us? I got to move on pretty quickly. What else you got?
Yeah, just one more thing, that there's a Indian religion here in Brazil that it's kind of absurd because they give
hallucinogenics.
Yeah, hallucinogenics drugs to women with children and 2 children in their baby bottles and stuff like that. So it's kind of absurd.
Wow. Well,
all right.
Not that far removed from Sunday school, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's very different.
Well, Mr. Deities in California, they're used to tons of hallucinogenics out there. Whatever it is, whatever they just find on the street, they roll it up and smoke it. Yep. It's just one of those things.
Right.
So, just a bunch of hippies and homosexuals. Let's talk to Diana in Rhode Island. Diana, hi. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast with Mr. Deity. Good evening, Diana.
Hi, it's Deanna, actually.
Forgive me, I have a D-I-A-N-A, but I said it wrong. Deanna, what's up?
They spelt my name wrong. But Seth, I'm Deanna Jackson for Facebook.
Love it.
I'm the one who's sharing your stuff. Oh, my question for Brian is, do you guys get a lot of hate mail from Christians that know that you're making fun of their religion?
No. In fact, just the opposite is true. And one of the things, having been religious, I knew that the vast majority of religious people were not. They didn't have a stick up their beep. They can laugh at this stuff too. And we have, I would say, at least probably 40 or 50% of the people who watch the show and love it and write me are religious. They're not. The media skews things toward the crazy religious folks because they're interesting, they're exciting, they're the odd, they're the bizarre.
They're the loudest voices.
There are a ton of pretty rational, Christians in this country who can who can laugh at themselves. I get a request every Easter. Hey, can we use an episode of the show in our Sunday service for Easter? These are the churches I want to be a part of. But no, we don't. I've had one real serious thing that someone sent me saying, this is how you're going to end up, and it was a video on YouTube with a bunch of dead Taliban fighters. The only other thing is, and I'm just part of a big group. There's a crazy guy in Montreal who has threatened the lives of pretty much all of us, Dawkins and PZ and everyone. And I actually got to meet him in I just spoke in Montreal a couple of weeks ago, and he's clearly nuts.
But you got to meet the guy who threatened you with death?
Yes. Yeah.
Was he at any point being restrained? I mean, what the heck?
No, I didn't realize it was him, and we think he pulled the fire alarm at one point during the conference. It was the Montreal Atheist Alliance International Conference there maybe a month or two ago, and then he was arguing with some people out there, and I saw it, and I went over, and I didn't know it was the guy, and I tried to talk to him, but he was just, he was crazy. He ended up flipping me off. It's just weird stuff. But
nothing says the love of Jesus like the bird, jacking the middle finger right at the opposition. I think nothing really buttresses the argument like that.
That's why he gave me the bird, because I said he was so angry, and I said, can you just calm down and let's talk, because I thought God was all about love, and he gave me the big F-U and flipped me the bird and ran off.
Well, my experience, Deanna, has been a little bit different. Now, I'm here sort of in the Midwest. I get I'm amazed at the amount of supportive input and email that I get from people. It is a tremendous source of encouragement to me, because I am a little bit isolated. Family and friends here, pretty much everybody believes in God. And so I'm guilty of I use the Thinking Atheist website and the emails and the Facebook as a chance for me just to have connection with people who get it. And so it's a real catharsis for me. But at the same time, I get some threats. I get hate mail, people threatening me with eternal torture. I get people who tell me that, God will show you when you die, fella. I mean,
I remember the comment sections from your videos.
Yeah, if you look at the comment section of my videos, you'll find that there are some people who need a hobby, who apparently have made me the hobby. So they're going to come into an atheist website, and they're going to convert the rest of us, usually in all caps, by saying, oh, yeah? Well, God loves you anyway, at least until he tortures you in hell.
Yeah.
So I have a very wide sort of a potpourri of correspondence coming in, but I will say, like Brian says, I receive a tremendous volume of positive, interesting, clever, introspective, just encouraging emails and correspondence from people that every time I get one, it just makes my day.
Yep.
Nice.
Same here. It's one of my favorite things about doing the show is just the comments on the YouTube channels.
Do people ever recognize you on the
everyone.
Street? I mean, you ever walk down the street and somebody knows who you are? Has ever happened?
Yeah, I get it fairly frequently. There's a funny little bit on that where I've been recognized most at Costco, which is a big warehouse, store out here. But I've gotten recognized there. I don't know how many times, but I got recognized. I took a bike out in Montreal because I wanted to see Old Montreal, which is absolutely gorgeous. I was riding around there.
Back to your Mormon roots there, huh? That's nice.
Somebody said to me, I was stopped and I was taking a picture of something, and someone walked up to me and said, so this is how God gets around, huh? And I said, yeah, I guess so. And I didn't even realize that it was a deity reference,
Bam.
I just went, and then it hit me like a minute later. Oh, they were referencing the whole deity thing. So yeah.
When they ask why you're on the bike, just tell them the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, I get recognized at the airport a lot when I'm traveling for the show.
Deanna, I got to move on. Thanks for a wonderful call. Have a great night, okay?
You too.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk to Christian in California. That's your neck of the woods. Christian, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me on.
I
had a question perhaps for both of you. What do you think about the future of Christianity in America? Because my friend and I were chatting the other day about the fact that with the internet and YouTube and all the atheists and new books, that it seems to me that within the next maybe 20 years, Christianity might kind of fade away in America.
I don't think religion's going anywhere in any form. I think it will. I think it'll always be there. I just think how marginalized will it be? How seriously will it be taken? But I mean, I just don't see it disappearing from the face of the planet. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I don't. You know, it's going to be a long time. I mean, the biggest problem is that people don't want it. You know, I don't think people believe for rational reasons for the most part. I think they believe because death and fear and there are a lot of it's a lot of wishing that goes on. You know, I have a line where what faith is really just hope on steroids, and that kind of thing, I think, until people are mature enough as societies to deal with the fact that, you know, we're here and we do the best we can while we're here, and then it's pretty much it, which is a tough thing to, you know, nobody wants that. It's an awful, horrible idea, and denial of death, I think, is going to keep religion going for a very long time. But I do think that we can make great strides simply because the ideas that skeptics and atheists promote are the ideas which have made our civilization great. If you look at virtually all of the values that we share generally with the religious folks in this country, freedom of religion, unless, of course, you're building a mosque near ground zero, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, tolerance, equality, justice, due process. All of those values are values that, you know, religion fought tooth and nail virtually at every turn. And so I think if that case can be made, and we can show people how many of the problems have been resolved and how many of the things that we have today that we love are the result of people eschewing, superstition and ideology and all of the things that have harmed human society for the last 2,000 years, I think we have a good chance of at least marginalizing it in some very powerful, heretofore unknown way. So
conversely, too, I think I would like to see if the word atheist or atheism or even agnosticism, free thinking, skepticism, whatever you want to call it, I think if we could remove the stigma from, because right now I always say that people think atheists are these, you know, all we do is have orgies and murder people. You know?
Oh God, crap! I'm late for my orgy. I gotta go.
And so I would like to see, I think, a cultural shift, at least in our lifetimes, when you say the word atheist, people don't automatically hide their children from you, right, but they just realize that you have a different belief system than they do, and you came to that belief system in a reasonable way. That's what my hope would be. But religion, it's probably going to be here to stay.
I think we're at the point now where people don't see us as communist pornographers anymore. That's a good thing.
Christian, thanks for the call.
Barney. Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Let's try to do real fast 2 or 3 more. You good for that? And then we'll call it a show. Let's talk to Chris, who is calling us from Canada. Chris, you're on the Thinking Atheist with Mr. Deity. What's up?
Hey there. How you doing, Brian and Seth?
Excellent.
Good. I love Canada.
Yeah, I'm glad you love Canada. Actually, I'm calling from Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, home of Dr. Persinger's God helmet, which...
yes. Okay. Yeah, Michael got a tour in that thing.
I haven't myself. I haven't been lucky enough to, but I'm proud that it's happening here. Quick question. With the success that both of you have been having on the internet, what do you think it's going to take to make atheism and more secular thinking meet the mainstream, like commercial television? I mean, you got successful shows like Big Bang Theory, which are getting there. Is it coming soon, do you think?
Well, I'll start and I'll let you say something really, really, truly important. How's that? Here's how I've approached it. Now, I have a production background, a broadcasting background, and so I remember when I finally rejected the faith of my parents, the faith that I had lived for 30 years. I just sort of inherited it from my family and then just assumed it to be true. And then when I realized that I had not really been thinking for myself, and I came to the conclusion that the evidence says that there is no God, I decided that I have got to get it out. I don't know about Brian, but I just felt a drive. Like I've got to talk about this. I've got to tell somebody. And so I thought, what am I good at? And I think people should be very self-aware. I know what my strengths are. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I suck at. Well, I know I'm good at video production and graphics and broadcast type stuff. And so I thought, I wonder if I could use those tools to help sort of amplify these arguments and throw them out there and see what sticks. And that's really how the thinkingatheist.com came about, and the YouTube videos, is that it was a chance for me to it was a cathartic thing for me, but it was also like I saw a void, a need, in a way that I could use an ability that I have to fill that need. And what I'm hoping is, down the pike, that the right person at the right time will see the right video, and that spark will ignite into an opportunity that maybe no one has even thought of before. And I'm not talking about fame, celebrity. If you've noticed, I don't even use my freaking face on the website. I don't want the thing to be about me, but I do want, if possible, to make a difference. I want to matter. And my hope is sometime in the future that an opportunity will happen where things come to critical mass and boom, the conversation is had by millions more people. Brian, I mean, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think, well, there are two parts of this. Number one, my show has been pitched by my management company to just about everyone in Hollywood, and they have two reactions. One is they either don't get it, they just don't get it, period, or they get it, they love it, and they're scared to death of it because they don't know what they can do with it in terms of getting it beyond.
Now, why don't they get it, though? Are they just bean counters? Are they businessmen? Are they like, well, you got to have this?
Yeah, a lot of them, they're just not, there's a lot of people in Hollywood who don't have a great deal of sophistication.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
We know it from the shows that they produce, but yeah, that happens.
Is the atheist thing scary for people? Does it freak them out? They're stigmatized by it?
No, what it is they're afraid of the center of the country, is what it comes down to in terms of, and it's even worse when you're in a recession and everything has to be a hit and everyone's job is on the line. Right now there's no hope for producing, the half-hour show of Mr. Deity in America, and so we're looking at other sources in other countries and whatnot, because we still want to do that. I think that would be one of the coolest shows ever, because we have the whole 5-year plan, pretty much planned out for the show. And God, what we could do with the Ministry of Jesus on a budget,
Yeah.
It would be the second coming of the life of Brian. But the other thing is, I wasn't very evangelical about my atheism for a long time when I came to it. I thought, live and let live. And then these two planes flew into some buildings, and it really changed me. And I know from talking with Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris that that was a seminal event for them as well, because what it was is the wake-up call that said, this is the second time now in the last 2,000 years where a religious ideology has gotten a great deal of political power, controlled an area, and let the religious ideas really foster and sink in. And we're seeing again that leads to tyranny and, suffering and a lack of freedom and women being treated like crap. And there are just so many things that we need to say, how do you say to these people, no, this is terrible, this is awful, when we're pushing our own book that says the same kind of, things, kill your non-virgin daughter, or genocide is okay, or, kill the homosexuals. And for me, at a certain point, I woke up and I said, this is a scary thing. We cannot let these people take control again of civilization and culture and all of that stuff, because they're gonna take us back to the Stone Age, just like Christianity did. When they had real power, Christian Europe was a nightmare. It's called the Dark Ages for a reason. And once we broke out of that and started using the tools that we use as skeptics and atheists, that's when life got better. So for me, I want to push that now as much as I can, and to the extent that I can get that into the media, either with a soft sell or, with comedy, or a hard sell, something more aggressive, maybe books, or we're starting a thing called The Way of the Mister, which is going to be a nonprofit that actually...
The Way of the Mister.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the name of our newsletter as well.
For those who are joining us late, it's a takeoff of Ray Comfort's The Way of the Master. I know there's a few folks who may not make that connection, so forgive the interruption. But The Way of the Mister, go.
That's right. The newsletter, by the way, is free to anyone who wants to go to the website and subscribe. But we want to broaden. There's ideas that can be done in 3 to 7 minutes with video production and movies and ideas that you can do that don't have anything to do with the deity universe, and we want to do that to push a lot of my ideas in that regard as well. And so I'm hitting everything. I'm also working on 2 books. So
Chris, what do you think? I mean, Chris, do you think the world is ready do you think the world's ready for us, man?
I'd hope so. I know I am. But it's I see how, and you, not only you too, but anybody who's on the internet has to almost beg for money to do your productions, and you do such great work.
I hope we don't sound that. Do we sound that way? Oh my God,
you
I hope not.
Begging segments, don't you?
I literally do a begging segment every.
I would wish that you wouldn't have to do it. I mean, I donate when I can, but I would wish that you wouldn't have to. You could have some commercial success with these, and that's what I mean. Go into the mainstream and be just as popular as any show out there.
Chris, thanks for the call. You know what's funny? I have 2 conversations when somebody goes to the thinkingatheist.com and they go to the store and they buy a shirt or make a donation or whatever. I have 2 conversations in my head. The first thing is I am so thankful that these people get it and they want to support what I'm doing, because it is a real financial. I mean, it's not, burden's not the word, but I mean, it's expensive. I mean, the Noah's Ark video, I think, cost me about $600 to do it right. I
cannot. First of all, let me say, I cannot believe that you did that for $600. That blows my mind, because that video is so unbelievably good.
Thank you.
Every time I look at that, I think, holy crap, the amount of time.
I'll tell you. I'll give you the
makes
secret.
Me feel like such a schmuck.
I found that, well, first of all, I'm doing pretty much everything, but I found my graphic artist, and I found a narrator, a series of narrators that I like to use. And it's funny because I tell them, look, I'm poor. Right. But because they are one of 100 people who I tried to get to audition, and they're the few people that I liked, who actually weren't scared off by infidel material. I mean, right. I'm amazed at how many people rejected that. They wouldn't even go to the content. They wouldn't even take the job if I'd asked them. If I'd paid them $1 million, they said, forget it, it's against my faith. But wow. These people they're not only like, wow, I'm an atheist, I'm so glad you're out there. What can I do? They have made it more possible for me to do that. But when I get someone who tries to support what I do, my first thing is I'm always very, very grateful. And the second thing is I think to myself, I'm a whore. Right. I'm a whore. I'm sold out. I'm no better than the televangelists who are asking for money. And so I honestly, I get nervous when it comes to the subject of receiving anything from anybody else. I mean, you ever go there? Is that a problem for you?
Not for a second. I don't know if it's because I've been self-employed for the last almost 25 years or what, but you realize very early in the self-employment world that everyone's a whore.
You're selling your plasma, whore,
Yeah, I do want to say something though. I do think there's one of the. It's I know people don't like to hear this, but there are a lot of people in the atheist community who have money. It's one of the reasons we're doing the nonprofit, because we want to do something bigger and educational and all that stuff. But we also want to appeal to people, in this community who have money, who can, use it as a write-up. The theists have such a tremendous advantage with just, saying, I'm a church, now I'm nonprofit, the money is tax deductible. It's a huge, huge benefit that they have that a lot of us don't. And I think as many of us who can do that, who can find a way to do that, should do that to get money coming in, because that is going to be the difference in the long run. Because if you want to get a message out and you want to change people's minds, you got to have money to do it. That's just a simple fact. And if we're not willing to, to put our money where our mouth is and support organizations like the National Center for Science Education and just all of these great organizations, if you feel that someone's doing something great, and I know this sounds incredibly self-serving, and you want to see that continue, you got to put in. And this is one of the things that the religious get really well. They're really smart about it. You pay your tithe. The Mormons give 10% of their income and then more if the church asks. So they're supporting their organizations, and we're, atheists and skeptics are. It's the classic line of trying to herd cats. We're all over the place. Does
that make us a religion, though? I mean, if somebody says, please send your gift. I mean, there are those who would say, well, atheism is just a religion.
Well, if to the extent that it has the same qualities of religion, you can call it whatever you want. But atheism and the ideas of atheism and skepticism are so removed from, I think, the horrible, awful ideas that religions can't change. I mean, that's one of the things that they have changed, but they've changed because they've had to, not because somebody said, well, look, here's the evidence now. Let's move this way. That's what the religious are prepared to do. There's no ideology per se behind atheism. No one has a dogma. No one has to believe X, Y, or Z.
Well, I would like to say, if I could say one thing in our defense, and this is also self-serving, but one thing I try to ensure to anyone who says, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I've had people volunteer their time. I've had people who are Photoshop experts say, look, let me help. And it's just been amazing. But where the religious community says, send your gift and we'll send a healing prayer at your way. If you give us your tithe, your offering, your seed money, God will then bless you. So what they're essentially doing is they're saying, you give to us and boy, the blessing is going to come. Of course, we're not going to have any actual contact with you after we receive your envelope or your credit card number, but God's going to bless you, and it's really a series of snake oil, false promises from somebody really slick. And all we're saying is, hey, dude, it's expensive. We're doing what we can. If you want to help, that'd be wonderful,
Yeah. I'm really selling nothing more than a little bit of a laugh, and hopefully you do a moment's, thought.
We're going up against the dramatics chipmunk videos and the singing hamsters and the freaking heavy metal parrots out there, and it ain't easy, people. I got time for one more call. Let's see if we can talk to Paula, who is in Poland. Paula, you are on the Thinking Atheist.
I love Paula. I know who Paula is.
Hello. I'm a bit shy, so my accent and my English will be probably very, very poor. I admire your work tremendously, both of you Thinking Atheist and of Brian's. And I wanted to ask about other Polish viewers. I think that Brian once told me that quite a lot of people from Poland had ordered his DVD.
Yes.
And I'm quite surprised at this because Poland is supposedly 90% Catholic. And, well, when I say that I'm an atheist, I'm usually frowned upon. And this is maybe not a question, but something that I've noticed. I, unfortunately, don't have higher education. I did study physics for some time, theoretical physics, but I didn't manage to finish university. And whenever I've tried to approach a Polish skeptic society or atheist society, they didn't want me to be a part of their group. Do you think that an autodidact atheist is as good as an atheist with, a professor title and etc.? Because people seem to ostracize me not only because I'm an atheist, but a person with no higher education.
Well, you're talking to an autodidact atheist, because I don't have any higher education either. I hated school. It bored me to tears, and I was probably not put into the right classes as I should have been. And by the time it was time to go to college, I took one college course, and I said, this is not for me. I got to get out of here. But I am I mean, my wife will tell you, if I've got a second of free time, I'm reading and I'm learning something, I'm watching a documentary, or, I think ultimately, this is, again, I'm saying nothing but self-serving stuff tonight here, but I do think if you have a passion for learning and education, I think that's far better than having a degree ultimately, because anyone can go to school and get the degree and you get a piece of paper, and then most people who go, that's the end of their education. They stop. So I would say, don't put yourself down in any way because you didn't finish and you don't have a higher degree of education. And whoever doesn't want you, I'm sure there's got to be. I know Polish is just extremely Catholic and rainy, by the way. But there's got to be some people that you can get together with. I don't know. It's tough. Maybe maybe people write into Mr. Deity. If you're a Polish atheist, write into me, and I'll try to put you people together so that you have some kind of community. Because I do think that's the other part of religion that they really get well, community, and we maybe need to start focusing on something like that without maybe trying to replicate the model exactly as they've done.
It's a real pleasure for me to be able to spend an hour on a podcast with you because, and I know this sounds really cliche when I say it, but I'm a big fan of your work.
I'm a big fan of yours as well, so it's very nice. This is the Mutual Admiration Society.
YouTube it's this weird, funny, eclectic, occasionally just scary place where you can find almost anything, but it's rare that you see the quality of production and writing and just the thought and the level of excellence that goes into what you do. And it just stood out the minute I saw it. And so that's why, for me, being able to spend an hour with you to find out about, the man behind the Mr. Deity phenomenon, I wanted to give you also a chance to talk about, can you plug your site and tell people how to, because I've had some people who've actually said, I've never heard of this guy before you promoted the podcast. Who is he? What's he doing? Where do I find him? Can people go to your site? Can you just kind of slug the Mr. Deity thing for me real fast?
Absolutely. You can go to MrDeity.com, which is MrDeity.com, not D-I-E-T, which is Mr. Deity, which is a whole other thing.
Mr. Deity.
Yeah, weight
That's
loss.
a whole other, yeah.
It's weight loss, I think. But go to MrDeity.com. You can. We don't have all the shows up there. The best place to get the shows, in fact, most of the people who watch the show regularly get it through an RSS feed or through iTunes. We get about 400,000 to 600,000 downloads of a month, which is basically 300,000 people at least downloading it. We don't know who watches it, but it's got a pretty good fan base. You can go there to our donation page and subscribe, or donate to the show there. Just click on the button at the bottom. You can also purchase a Season 3 DVD, which we're just about to have to make another run on those because those have been going well.
What's the story on these books you're writing? You're an author twice? What's that about?
Well, I'm working on the first book is called Mr. Deity's Diary, which is basically just I tell the true backstory of how Mr. Deity really began when I was a member of MI 5.5.5, and that story of how I came upon Mr. Deity's diary in the caves near where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found is a fascinating story in and of itself. But then it's my recollection of the diary from having read it and all of the entries that Mr. Deity had made. There's some snippets there from Jesse's journal as well. So they're just short little diary entries from before the beginning of the universe on. So that's one.
That should answer a lot of questions. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that and the other book that I'm working on is called "What's God Got to Do with It," which is about kind of practical atheism and how belief in God doesn't really solve any of the problems that we think we'd like it to. So I'm working on both of those, and then still writing the show. Every week we have a new show coming up on Monday, which is one of my all-time favorites with me and Jimbo, who plays Larry, called Mr. Deity and the Goody Two Shoes. So
And in the meantime, he'll be out there riding his bike, just cruising along. You just never know when he's.
You can always sign up for the free newsletter as well, and we put one of those out maybe once a month or every 3 weeks. MrDeity.com is a fantastic website. It's really easy to navigate. It's got a lot of great stuff on it. And best of all, it doesn't look like stereo instructions, which is a trap many people, I think, fall into when they put together any kind of a free-thinking website. It just looks, it's a text fest, but yours is a lot of fun to go. MrDeity.com. I was a graphic designer for 20 years, so that's helps.
I buy that, man. You seem extremely media savvy. And you're a great guest. You're a tremendous communicator, and I'm very, very thankful to spend the last hour with you. I encourage all of our podcast listeners to discover more about these wonderful people and a brilliant and funny show they do at MrDeity.com. Brian, thanks so much for everything, and have a wonderful night, okay?
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. TheThinkingAtheist.com.